Page 2. Mind. Lucia lost her footing and scrambled, as if fire stained the ground. Her mind sped away from her, and the memory of the heat on her heels and the stinging crackle of fire was too real. Lucia tore at the ground with desperate fumbling hands. With a blink, the vision was gone, and the dry grass was no longer on flame. She sat in a trembling daze, but it wasn't from the cold. She heard a crackle and it made her recoil like a cannon exploding. She flattened on the ground. Silence followed the tense moment as her fear dispersed. She looked up and found the culprit for her episode, a flag over the barricade snapping in the wind. Her heart was still slamming against her breastplate. Commander, summoned by her call for help, her trusted steward Revere was there. Lucia's hair whipped in the wind and her eyes stung. He had a worried expression. The guard said you fell. I forgot where I was. Steward Revere recognized the signs of her traumatic experience. He had seen it enough times. The look in her eyes, the heaving of her shoulders, the trembling of her hands, the paleness of her face. He sat beside her and pulled a knitted scarf over her head and hid her face from the frigid wind. Is it over, Commander? Yes. She hid her face in the scarf and felt the knit with her nose. It smelled like him. Practicing? He asked gently. Lucia looked at her discarded swords on the ground. She nodded. They looked down the windy slope to the dark frozen ocean. The ice was in broken chaotic upheaval as far as the eye could see. The ice looked dark and still like metal and just as cold. That night, when the fire tore apart the sky, that falling star caused it to waken, he said, and a speck of black snow touched his face and melted like a blotch of ink. Lucia wiped his face with the end of the scarf. It was the kind of star that grants nightmares, not wishes, Lucia said. The sparse flurry of ebony snow threatened to darken the day. He helped her stand on her trembling legs with his shoulder guard brace. He was mature in looks but appeared youthful enough to make the silver luster of his hair seem surreal. The Festival of Lights will begin soon, he said, and glanced back at the sun setting across the mountain range behind them. It's supposed to celebrate hope,